Today on Live Daily News, the woman involved in the Grape Creek Standoff has been indicted. Plateau Brewing Company is hosting an event for teachers and educators, and there was a pretty large police presence at the Red Arroyo today. Then, Joe Hyde sits down with Texas Representative Stan Lambert. I'm James Bellini, and this is Live. We'll get to the news in a minute, but first, the time is here to stock up and save on John Deere filters and packaged oil at the South Plains Implement Semi-Annual Sale. Now through August 31st, receive 12% off John Deere oil and filters. Some restrictions do apply. Also, you can visit their parts department for details. Located at US 67 North at Tractor Trail in San Angelo, or with 18 additional locations, there is a South Plains Implement near you. South Plains Implement, where farm meets family. Starting off the news, 38-year-old Norma Lee Hernandez, the woman who was involved in a standoff in Grape Creek with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, has been indicted. Back in May of this year, sheriff deputies were called to Wheatland Drive in Grape Creek when Hernandez brandished knives and barricaded herself inside the residence. After a chemical irritant was used, Hernandez was eventually taken into custody, but not before partially amputating a victim's fingers. Hernandez was booked in the Montgomery County Jail on May 17th and has remained an inmate since. She was indicted for violating a protective order, aggravated assault causing serious bodily injury, and injury to a child, elderly, or disabled individual. This morning, San Angelo Live received messages and calls about a pretty significant police presence at the Red Arroyo near Wells Fargo off the loop. Reporters on scene said that there were several police units and officers working near Red Arroyo Creek. San Angelo Live has reached out to the San Angelo Police Department for more information regarding this incident. Have you downloaded the San Angelo Live mobile app yet? It's free and it's the best app in the business. Download it today off the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store to stay up to date with news in San Angelo. Plateau Brewing Company is hosting a community event for Concho Valley teachers, titled The Last Fling Before the Bell Rings. It is dedicated to teachers and educators in the Concho Valley, and as part of its celebration, Plateau Brewing Company is collecting dozens of teachers' Amazon wish lists, and attendees will be able to help purchase much needed supplies. The list will be posted in the tap room, and each one will have a QR code on it. The last fling before the bell rings is scheduled to start at 3 p.m. on Saturday, August 10th at Plateau Brewing Company, located at 214 South Chadbourn Street. There will also be drink specials and live music by Manny Campos. Into weather, it's hot outside. Right now, it's 100 degrees with the high being 101 and the low tonight at 75. Tomorrow, a heat advisory kicks in around lunchtime and the high is set for 107, and the high sticks around there at 107 on Thursday as well. So prepare accordingly with water, sunscreen, shade, and bring your pets inside and make sure to give them plenty of water. The lows tomorrow night and Thursday are right around the mid-70s. Friday, a cold front rolls through, and the high will only be 104. Then Friday night, we have some thunderstorms that could hit the area at about 20% chance. Over the weekend, highs will be 103 and 102 on Saturday and Sunday, respectively. When we come back, the COVER1 Crew talks about the Wall Hawks and the Grape Creek Eagles, and then Joe Hyde sits down with Stan Lambert at the West Texas Legislative Summit. But first, a word from the Bass Bunch.
It's our giant tag sale.
Right now, during our giant tag hail sale, you can get a brand new 2024 Ford Bronco Sport for just $25,999.
Don't miss our giant tag sale only at Jim Bass Cars and Trucks, Houston, Hart and Arden Road, or 24/7 at bassbunch.com.
Welcome back, everybody. James Bellini here. Hey, it's day 2 of 2-a-days. Before we get any further, though, my co-host Ryan Chadwick. How we doing, Chadwick?
Happy to be here. Welcome back to COVER1 Tuesday edition. Went out and covered a couple more schools today. Got a couple more great player and coach interviews. But first, we're going to talk about the Wall Hawks. James, take it away.
What do you mean, take it away?
Talk about them.
Talk about them? I mean, they got a new head coach who's been there for a while. The defensive coordinator moved up to head coach, Craig Slaughter. We love the guy in studio here. We've had him on several times. He's one of the only defensive coordinators we brought in last year.
Literally the only one.
Yeah, the only defensive guy we brought in. The guys out there at Wall love him. I mean, he rebuilt that defense. A couple years ago, they played Bushland in the playoffs, and then they graduated their entire defense. and they only had like 3 starters returning, and Slaughter had 0 on defense. And now they're one of the most feared defenses in the Concho Valley. And Chadwick, you got an interview with him, didn't you?
I did, man, and he is now the head coach of the Wall Hawks, and it's going to be a completely revamped Wall Hawk team this year. Talking to Slaughter yesterday, man, he looked like a kid on Christmas. In fact, that's how he described it. He said, this is like Christmas Day, watching the kids walk back through those doors and putting on the not quite putting on full pads yet, but strapping up the helmets and getting after it. So, yeah, let's go ahead and go to that Coach Slaughter interview. All right, joining me is head coach of the Wall Hawks, Craig Slaughter. Coach, first day of practice, just give me your overall thoughts on how the boys look today and what you have going on in the next couple weeks.
Dude, I thought it looked sharp. I really did. There's such new verbiage, and man, day one, it's Christmas morning. You're so excited to see them all come walking back in those doors, and it's nice to see them all together. That energy, is there. We have great expectations, and like I said, it was a great day one. So now we got to do it day 2, 3, and 4 also.
Yeah, and we won't get too much in the scheme today, but just give me your overall thoughts on how the new offense look compared to years past.
I'm really trusting that Coach Sonham, that offensive staff. Most of the time, I'm with the younger guys on D. I just know I trust our coaches and I trust our kids. If you haven't seen Wall play in a few years, you're gonna. The ball's gonna be more distributed, around the football field, and that there'll be some playmakers that have that football, and again, with that can come some negative plays. That's what you're always guarding against. Quarterback snap, tip pass or something like that. But we're hoping that we have more explosive plays on our side of it.
Let's get into your bread and butter a little bit. As far as the summer conditioning and everything went, how did the defense look?
Dude, I just told the coach I think we could line up and play somebody tomorrow, and do a pretty effective job. Our kids, they're so cerebral, they're so athletic. I think they know what they're supposed to do, and it's really just already you're just fine-tuning things, or maybe refining, how you play to play or something. But those dudes can play. Whenever
it comes to basically offensive and defensive efficiency, especially when you're dusting off some of the cobwebs, how quickly do you expect that to come on in the next couple of weeks before your first scrimmage?
I definitely think, like, it truly is, defense is such about a scheme and cerebral athletic kids, which we have. We could line up and play pretty effective defense tomorrow. Offense needs to do, I think it's a little tougher teaching that spacing, and again, that's where the verbiage is totally different. So our offense, and again, I thought they looked fine today, but I think in 2 weeks, they'll be, miles ahead of where they are. You're going to see them, get better and better as they trust it and understand it and know what's happening.
All right, Coach, now this one's for you. How excited are you for football to be back?
Oh, dude, no, it's awesome. That's what my daughter at the house, like a couple weeks ago, she came up, she said, "Dad, please quit talking about football." So I said, well, hey, I'll try. But, I was so excited. Barely slept last night. I got here about 4:15 this morning, just ready to, waiting for kids to come walking in the doors. Man, it's a great time of year. Excited to lead that football team.
All right, again, this has been head coach of the Wall Hawks, Craig Slaughter. Coach, I'm just as excited as you are to be out here too.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
We love that guy, Coach Slaughter. Even last year, when I'd see him walking with his wife around Southland, he's like, "Hey, man, 2 days coming up. You know how much football means to this guy."
Well, I can't remember, it was part of the conversation, and he said it during the interview. He said it after the interview too. He was like, my daughter told me to stop talking about football so much. And so, when you have a guy who's that passionate, you know that your program is going to be going in the right direction, and that's just something to look out for this year. Wall's not going to be the same hour-and-a-half football game that it was last year. It's going to be a high-flying, highlight reel performance if they can get that offense down. So Wall Hawk football is about to be exciting again, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, you kind of saw, him throw it around a little bit. Talk about what you saw.
It seems like that they're looking to get guys out in space this year, and it's not your traditional. We're looking to push the ball down the field every play. Think more reminiscent as using the passing game to run the ball that Cliff Kingsbury kind of did at Texas Tech. A little bit Mike Leach-esque, but more like we're not going to run it through the interior. We're going to get on the edge, and then we're going to go. So I expect a bunch of screens, drags,
I was about to say
shallow crosses across the middle. You know what I mean?
They're going to use that speed they got.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. And they have top of the state in 3A speed on that roster, and they're going to be able to run away from people. Like whenever they play Mason in week 1, that's going to be a great matchup. And all I got to say is, Mason, you better be on your game if you played like you did against Ganado, against another team that's fast. I know Wall's going to be pretty new at this, but it might be able to get away from him. It might not be as close as it was last year.
Yeah, don't take the, Wall's running a new offense. They should just be, there's going to be the first week. They're still going to be learning. I'm sure they will be. I mean, it takes a while to install things, but Wall does have speed. They do have those guys that can go the distance. We've seen them on the track, run away from people. So, yeah, and let's not act like Mason's like a pushover team. They're not. They've won, 60-something games, district games in a row, and they're in double digits as far as district titles go. They are a top-notch program out there, too.
Well, they come in at number 9 in the state in 2A, too, so
yeah,
they're definitely not a pushover. But it's another rivalry game, and like I said, that was a smash-mouth game last year. Yeah.
It's always a good game.
And I expect it to be another one this year.
Yeah.
Although, I keep wondering when the Punchers are going to come to town. I feel like Wall keeps having to travel to Mason the last couple of years.
No, I think they came a couple years ago, and then they went to Mason last year, and now they're going back to Mason this year. And the Puncher Dome is beautiful. I love the Puncher Dome. Have you ever been there? I don't think you ever have.
I was at the Wall Mason game last season in the game where Mason barely pulled that one out at the end, forced a couple of late interceptions when they were up. Unfortunately for the Hawks, that was the game that Ryan Allen got hurt in, and then they basically lost him for the season. He was one of their best defensive players. But
how'd their defense look? How'd the Wall defense look?
I mean, they're fast, man. Like, it's exactly what Slaughter said in the interview. He said they look sharp,
I'm gonna find I'm gonna find 2 more horsemen for the horsemen. The 11 horsemen doesn't have the same ring to it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's one of the nicknames that we've coined for them, and it's really stuck, and it seems like
it's one of my best
like
nicknames for the Contra Valley team.
It really is, too.
I mean, it's hard to top that one.
Right.
But let's go ahead and, move on to the other school you went to, Grape Creek. And you said Coach Teal was excited you were out there.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Teal looked excited just to be out there coaching football, but he was especially excited once he saw me. He walked over to me as soon as he was done running the whatever offensive set they were on. I think they were doing a little bit of JV work when he came over and talked to me, and he gave me a little bit of time. And I mentioned to him, I was like, man, Coach, I was like, y'all look bigger this year. Because that's one thing that I remember from Grape Creek last year. They just looked young and they looked smaller. I'm not saying they didn't look athletic.
They were young. They were young, smaller last year.
And so this year, and he was like, yeah, he's like, we pretty much returned to everybody, and everyone has now spent at least 2 years in our strength and conditioning program, and apparently something has worked. He said that the kids have been dedicated this year. There's probably 60 plus kids out there at a 3A school. That's outstanding attendance. And Coach Teal said that no one's missed practice yet. Everyone's working hard. Everyone came into the start of 2 days pretty in shape already. He said he's still got a little bit of work to do with the bigger boys to get them in shape. But, man, he was excited. When I tried to grab him for an interview, he was like, no, I already talked to you. He's like, I'm going to direct you to my defensive coordinator. So I talked to defensive coordinator out of Grape Creek, Trey Morgan, after practice, and he had a lot of good things to say about his defense. And, of course, we talked a little bit about offense too. But, yeah, let's go ahead and go to that interview. All right, I'm here with defensive coordinator for the Grape Creek Eagles, Trey Morgan. Coach, football is back. This is officially the second day of practice, or the end of the second day of practice. Tell me how you're feeling, how you feel like your team has done the last couple of days. Just talk about the 2024 season.
Well, from the start yesterday, our kids picked up on what we've done. We keep a routine, and it's a process that we work every day, and that's what we're stressing this year is the process, concentrating and focusing on the process to lead to bigger and better things. Right now, I mean, it's like we never left the season last year. We ended on that high note and played very good defense those last two weeks especially, but had a lot of good signs during the season. And now we're a year older. We haven't had to make a lot of changes. people back in key spots. So it's just, I mean, even though we've been out of this since last November, I mean, when we picked up yesterday, it was just smooth sailing.
And that's one thing I noticed when I walked on here this year, and I made a comment to Coach Teal. I was like, y'all look so much bigger this year.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how the conditioning program has gone this summer, because it looks like these guys have shown up.
Well, and I've made mention to the other coaches that we might be weight-wise bigger than we've been since I've been here. And, I mean, we've got several over 200, handful over 220, 240, you know, and even bigger. So we've got some size, but they're also, for the most part, not in super bad shape. You know, we've conditioned during the summer. A lot of these kids have been up here all summer long, and it's done nothing but just pay dividends for them. And it shows out here these first 2 days.
And now, specifically on defense, because you are the defensive coordinator out here, who are we looking at that are going to be some of your impact players this year?
Well, to start with, Sire Garcia, one of our inside linebackers, who was a sophomore last year, numerous honors last year at the district level and the All-West Texas level. He's back to lead the defense. On the defensive line, we've got Grayson Bond, Hunter Woods, and I know I'm leaving some guys out, but those are just a couple of names. Outside linebackers, they're back. Chris Duron, Zane Durham. We're moving a young man from the secondary to that spot, and Daniel Anchondo, and they've got speed and toughness. Our secondary's a year older. Our two safeties are Brayley Woods and Gabe Santillan are huge compared to what we've had. I mean, so we've got some size at all three levels. Like I said, our speed is better. And our football knowledge, they understand what we're doing. They've had a year in the system. Well, actually, they've had more than that because we've been running this system for a few years. So, I mean, it shows. They're moving well, and if they don't know, they're asking questions. They're increasing that football IQ, and it's nice to see. I'm expecting very good things this year.
So it's an exciting time to be a Grape Creek Eagle.
Yes, most definitely. You know, it's just one of those deals where here we are Tuesday and we're already like, okay, when can we get in pads, you know, and get this thing rolling? But yeah, we're getting the learning down now, and it's been more just a review, and we'll have everything in place probably by the end of the week, and then it's applying it in contact situations from there on.
Yeah, Coach, and believe me, we're just as excited headed into 2024. But again, this has been defensive coordinator for the Grape Creek Eagles, Trey Morgan. Thanks for taking the time, Coach.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks again for taking the time, Coach Morgan. And like I said in the interview, I look forward to what the Grape Creek Eagles can do this season. I know they're in another tough district, but I feel a lot more confident about the Grape Creek Eagles headed into 2024 than I did into 2022 or 2023. Like I said before, they just look bigger and stronger, and with that wing tee that they run, I was looking at their fullback. He weighs at least 220. Looks like they got a defensive lineman who's actually pretty athletic out there playing fullback, so he's going to be hard to stop. Sire Garcia, their running back, he was looking quick around the edge, and he's going to be one of their best defensive players again out there at linebacker. The only question I have is I want to see how the quarterback's going to look if they ever have to throw the ball. But from what I've seen in practice, the spirals look tight, and the receivers were catching the ball when it was thrown their way. But yeah, man, like I said, I was like, Central was impressive, Wall was impressive, but what has impressed me most was just the step that Grape Creek looks to have taken from 2023 into 2024, riding that 2-game win streak.
You mentioned their attendance. You mentioned there's 70 kids out there from what you saw?
It was 60 plus easy. Like, I was talking to Coach Teal when he came over, and he said, yeah, we got a little bit over 30 guys on the varsity right now and another 40 on the JV, and he's like, we're looking to promote a couple more. And so I'm like, at a 3A school, I mean, that's as many as Wall has, you know?
Right.
And shoot, I think Central was around 75 or 80, you know what I mean? So when you have guys who show up and care like that and they buy in, that's when you start actually building something out there. And so I know it takes the athletes and the know-how, and you got to get the dominoes to fall right. But if you're trying to build a culture out at Grape Creek for like with kids who want to play for their school and play for those coaches, Coach Teal's doing a pretty good job from what I've seen.
Yeah, it goes back to what he was talking about. I remember when we talked about, hey, bring up certain players, and he said this kid's in baseball and basketball and they run track, and that's part of what you need on the football field too. You need kids who don't just specialize in one sport, who play all these different kinds of sports, and that just helps build tradition out there, and that's so important for every school in the area.
Well, because that means you're playing for the name on your chest and the logo on your helmet, and not for yourself, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And like nothing against the guys who do specialize in one sport, but the more sports you play, the more opportunity you have to wear that Grape Creek or that Central or that TLCA across your chest, and you feel like you're a part of something. So, like I said, I'm excited to see what Grape Creek can do. They got two decently, like, Coach Teal did himself no favors in scheduling two difficult scrimmages before the season started. I know they're going to play Forsan in Miles, and then they're going to play Ira Ann after that. So
hey, iron sharpens iron, man.
Yeah,
you got it.
For sure. But that will be a great first look to see where the Eagles are at compared to last year. And I know Coach Morgan and Coach Teal both said that it's almost like they haven't taken time off.
You also spoke to a player out there, right?
Yes, I did, and that's definitely one of those interviews that y'all are gonna have to go watch in the story that I'm writing tomorrow. So stay tuned for that one. He's a great young man. He's one of the leaders on that team, and it's one of the guys that Coach Teal wouldn't name, but he was bragging all about. And it's looking like he's going to be one of their team captains. And 2 years ago, he had never even played football before. So.
And also, stop calling us sirs. I get that it's a respect thing, but. Come on.
So, James doesn't like the sir. I don't mind it so much. I've accepted that I'm old. James is still hanging on.
I'm going to hang on for everything I can. All right. Anything else you want to bring up before we call it?
Check out later on this week, we're going to have some Cristoval football coverage. We're going to have some Lakeview football coverage. And just because of how long I was out at Grape Creek today, I did not make it to Angelo State, but I do plan on heading out to see the Rams tomorrow. So, like I said, I know they're not part of the high school COVER1, but they are one of the best teams in the state of Texas in Division II college football. So, and we know how everyone in San Angelo loves our Rams. So,
you got a lot of local kids on that team.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah,
I know, and we got a couple starters too, and one of them is a Cristoval Cougar. James, you should be so proud.
I am proud, man. It's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, what do you want me? Of course it is.
Yeah, my Bobcats aren't starting yet, but hey, I hear that Tyler Hill's getting a little bit closer.
And and we're also gonna have some Ballinger. We're gonna have some Miles coming up. Really, I know the people in Reynolds County are excited about that Miles team. I know they lost Haven Book and another, but Coach Wilhelm is real high on Liam Yancey out there, so for their new quarterback. And he's a younger kid, too, so you're going to have him for a couple years.
Well, and they still got Cooper Ellison, too. So,
absolutely.
They're still going to have that deep threat.
I know I'm jumping ahead.
Tevin Meade ain't bad. I was about to say, we will get there.
No, I know I'm jumping ahead, but I'm looking at the schedule, and they play Miles. That Miles plays Sonora that first week. I'm really looking forward to seeing that Cooper Ellison and Dylan Ford matchup. That's probably one of the best receivers in the area, going up against one of the best defensive backs. And I've been thinking about it, man, that's going to be a really good matchup for, just the area.
Oh, yeah, and I'm excited for it, man. We're about midway through
you look tired, Chadwick.
Hey, I've been getting up really early and then working really late. We're just getting ready for week 1, okay? It's going to be worth it.
We're 2 days in.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Anyway, this has been COVER1. Tune in tomorrow, see some more coverage of high school teams in the area. And for James Bellini here and Ryan Chadwick, we'll see you tomorrow.
It's hard to believe how reckless some people can be and how hard they fight against real victims. You need a partner who consistently beats the giants and who will never, ever flinch.
Well, welcome back to the show. My name is Joe Hyde. I'm the publisher of San Angelo Live, and I have a special guest today because he's going to give us some context of what's happening here in San Angelo. I have Stan Lambert. He is the state rep for House District 71 in the Texas House, and we were just talking about, describe your district. It's Abilene to Sweetwater,
yes,
all the way up to Anson.
Yes.
So it kind of looks like a small wedding cake.
Yes, with Callahan County, which is just to the east.
Just
so it looks like a cake.
Yeah, it looks just like a cake. You and Darby were kind of in the same boat together. You both were opposed by the governor because y'all are rural reps and you didn't support his school voucher program.
Right.
How did you win that election?
Well, I had a great staff and that worked really, really hard. We had a lot of good local support. We tried to make sure that we didn't miss attending events, being visible in all aspects. It was really about getting our support out and making sure that our opposition wasn't able to attract any crossovers. But it was a tough, hard election from a lot of different angles. The type of rhetoric that was being used, the information that was being spread was completely false and basically just lies about Drew's track record, my track record, what we had done and what we had supported in the past. I think the one that just was most egregious was his comments, the governor's comments about how he couldn't trust us on border security when both Representative Darby and I have supported the governor on every budget allocation or appropriation, as well as all policies related to the border. We were in full support of that. So we were excited that we won, and then yet we kind of thought, wow, this election cycle took a completely different turn in terms of how it was approached. The money that was spent, that was coming in, was just unbelievable. So I just really give a lot of credit to my team and how we stood firm and made sure that our position was clear on the issues, and we tried to take the high road when our opposition decided they wanted to take the low road.
Our state rep here at District 72, Drew Darby, he opposed the voucher scheme. That's what he calls it, the scheme.
Right.
Primarily because he felt that it was taking money we won't have in out years. It was going to put a lot of pressure on the Foundation Schools budget, Foundation Schools program, which is like a $94 million or $1 billion budget.
Right.
He was afraid if we're not going to take care of our public schools now and we stand up this separate entity that's going to cost billions and billions and billions of dollars eventually.
That's right.
And he was worried about, we cover high school football at San Angelo Live, and we call them the Core 27, and some of those schools are in your district.
Right.
But we have Core 27, 1A through 3A schools. I mean, like Robert Lee, and
right.
I mean, I'm sure Anson,
Right.
Jim Ned.
Yes.
We thought, Drew thought that those school districts would be the first to go.
Well, I call it more of a voucher scam because what we have found out in doing the research with other states is that about 70% of the money that's spent on vouchers are going to parents and families who have never attended a public school before. Mm-hmm. So we're just basically giving out the wealthy families an entitlement, more or less a tax break. And as Drew said, and Representative Darby made comment, every dollar you spend on a voucher is a dollar that could have been spent on public education. Mm-hmm. And I was on the school board in Abilene for 10 years. I went through the cuts that were made back in 2010, 2011. Almost $5.5 billion was taken out of education funding. And so we've been trying to recover for 10 years, 10 or 12 years. We made some progress in 2019 with HB 3, but we still haven't caught up. COVID hit, inflation hit, so we're still struggling to try to get our public schools funded at the right level. And so any kind of a program, whether it was voucher or some other program that was going to start siphoning off dollars to us, was just basically a death knell to our rural schools.
Okay. And a lot of people that live in, like, let's say the Energy Corridor in West Houston or in Frisco, Texas, or live in White Rock Lake in Dallas, and they don't trust their public schools anymore.
No, they don't. And maybe there are some schools that are underperforming, and I'm not sure that if the governor and other leadership had approached the full House and the full Senate with a program that might have been very limited in terms of scope and how many people were actually going to be affected.
You're talking about a limited voucher
program? A limited
program?
voucher program that was going to maybe give those inner city kids maybe a chance to go to a private school, but $10,000 wasn't going to cover the cost. And that was the amount that was being proposed in the bill that we basically more or less defeated because we took the voucher component out of that bill with an amendment. And so I'm open-minded to something that would maybe address some of the special needs children around the state. And again, maybe trying to help those families that have kids in low-performing schools and really don't have many options.
One of the options that you might have there is with the special needs education budget, which has been it's been underfunded for years. I mean, I've heard that it's probably about half funded. I mean, they need $4 or $5 billion, they get $2 billion. Take that and turn that into a voucher program for parents with kids with special needs.
Well, I think in the next session, if something like that were presented in a way that made sense and that wasn't going to harm our rural schools, I think there would be a little bit more openness to having that discussion and that conversation. But what I'm hearing is still he's full bore on a universal voucher program for anyone that wants to put their kid in a private school. So I'm still pretty much against that type of program.
Since I think there were 16 that were targeted, maybe 14 lost, or you know, how are you going to? I mean, I know that we have 21 new House reps who signed the contract with Texas, and that contract is we don't want to have Democrat chairs. You know, they have a whole litany of things. How are we going to get anything done for West Texas out there when we have these basically suburban reps who have signed this agreement that we're going to do? I don't know if they've done vouchers. I don't think they've done that, but they're going to set up the legislature where it's going to be not a traditional working environment that you guys do.
Right. And I think that's something that Representative Darby and I have spent a lot of time in the 20 years that he's been in the House, the 8 years that I've been, and we've developed relationships across the aisle. We've tried to build relationships with our urban colleagues, whether they're Democrat or Republican. Right. And I think that trust and that relationship goes a long way, hopefully, in mending some of these fences and allowing us to continue to do business as usual, although in the next legislative session, I don't know that that standard's going to change quite a bit because of all the new faces and all the demands that keep coming out, at least from some certain segments of our of our Republican caucus. So, you know, we'll just have to wait and see. And then I think as we get closer to January, and of course, I've got an election to win in November before I know for sure that I'm going. But we will know pretty much in January, number one, who the speaker's going to be, if the speaker's going to support Democratic chairs or not. Those will be two big votes that will come out in the early part of January. We'll work through the process of getting to know some of these new people and explaining to them and helping them understand that you know, it's what's good in Houston may not be good in West Texas, and one size doesn't always fit all. And sometimes we need to kind of come together and figure out a solution where both parties win, both sides win, instead of this, you know, winner take all type approach.
Speaker of the House, Dave Phelan, took a lot of fire.
Yes.
I talked with Governor Rick Perry about it, who went down there and campaigned for him. And he said, you know, he had the most conservative legislative session ever, and all of a sudden now they want to get rid of him. Yeah. And so I asked Perry this. I said, do you think that he's going to survive and still be the Speaker of the House? And he kind of avoided that. He said, look at the policies. Look at the policies. What do you think of Dave Phelan? Are you supporting him, or do you think he's going to have a chance to get re-elected as the Speaker?
Well, I also went to Beaumont, and I also did some campaigning on his behalf, and so I'm very supportive of Speaker Phelan. I think the last two legislative sessions have been two of the most conservative sessions in terms of number of victories, of conservative victories that we've ever had in the state legislature. And so I think the rhetoric and what you're hearing coming from the far right about him not being conservative enough is really foolishness. And I think if Speaker Phelan wants to retain his job, I think he'll have the support needed to get to the 76 votes.
All right, so Phelan is going to win. We have a prediction from Stan Lambert. Anything from the Abilene area that there would be a different issue? I can't think of anything. We were kind of the same, you know, agriculture, water. What about water? We have this water development board.
Well, I think we made some progress in the last legislative session. Senator Perry, of course, has been a champion in that regard. He certainly has forgotten more about water issues than I'll ever know. And it's just kind of because of that 1 inch long and a mile wide issue, as far as all the different things that we have to learn about and find out about when we go down to represent our constituents. And so water is going to be a big issue. Infrastructure is going to be important. Energy, obviously the grid, and
the grid will be important because the center point energy thing in Houston,
depending on what happens in November, may change the dynamic a little bit as far as border security and whether the federal government steps back into their role as being the primary responsible.
Which could free up a lot of money.
Could free up a lot of money for Texas. We've heard rumors of anywhere between another $6 billion to $10 billion for border security on top of
your 15,
the $4 billion that we've spent about 11 or 12 billion over the last 4 sessions. But
so you're talking about
just in the last budget we spent and allocated over $4 billion. And we're hearing that there's going to be a request for another $6 to $10 billion on top of that. You know, we're building a base, basically near Eagle Pass, that where DPS and Texas National Guard, and they'll have eating facilities and bedding facilities and places where they can go recreate when they're not working. And so, you know, that just cost a lot of money that really we're spending in place of what the federal government should be.
Plus, you have part-timers, part-time guard people you're paying full salary.
That's right.
That's probably your biggest expense.
So as soon as we can get some relief from the federal government and they start beefing up Border Patrol to do their jobs and not this catch and release that we have going on right now, I think things will really improve as far as our budget and the allocations and the appropriations that we're going to need to spend in the next session. So that'll still be a major issue just because it's becoming a national issue.
Right.
And everyone realizes now it's not just Texas, it's not just the border states, it's the entire country. It's costing more money, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, whatever the issue is. This lack of having a good, strong border is really costing the American public a lot of money, and Texas taxpayers as well.
Okay, we're in the political season, obviously, so I'm going to ask a fun question.
Sure.
Abilene and San Angelo are comparable cities. Whenever a budget item comes up, like, you know, why are we paying our police department less than Abilene and vice versa? We always have a little bit of competitiveness because in public policy, there's the comparable city aspect of it. So will the San Angelo DMA, or District 72, will it have a higher percentage vote for Trump than District 71? Or will it be the other way around?
That's a great question. I really don't know. I think it'll be very, very close because I think the big country and the Concho Valley share a lot of the same conservative beliefs and values. I think it just depends on what the turnout is and who shows up at the polls. But, you know, we don't really see it so much as Abilene competing with San Angelo as we see rural Texas competing with
urban Texas.
Urban areas.
Right.
And so that's probably where our disagreements come in more. We're very consolidated and we work cohesively as far as our rural representation, both West Texas, East Texas.
Well, you have to,
and even
because
in South Texas.
There's more reps in West Houston than there are all West Texas.
That's why I say we have really spent a lot of time trying to build those relationships with our urban colleagues, whether they're D's or R's, just to make sure that they understand we're providing you all the food, fiber, and fuel. You get to live in Dallas, you get to live in San Antonio, you get to live in Houston because of what West Texas is doing every single day, 24/7, to make sure that you have the raw materials and the resources in order to live in those larger communities. So
okay, so no competition between San Angelo and Abilene.
No way, except on Friday night, maybe between Abilene High and San Angelo Central.
That's right. The little Southwest Conference.
Little Southwest.
But anyway, this has been Stan Lambert. He is the state rep for District 71, which is Abilene and the surrounding area, kind of just north of our District 72 here in San Angelo. And I really appreciate you talking with us and giving us some context of what you're seeing up in Abilene, which is pretty similar.
Happy to do it.
So
anytime.
Anyway, back to the studio.
When it comes to unique pieces you can't find anywhere else, Kano's Diamonds and Coins is your one-stop shop. With over 24 years in the diamond and coin industry, Cano's Diamonds and Coins is West Texas's choice for diamonds, jewelry, coins, silver, and gold. Owner Bill Cano stands by his work and offers free consultations, including estate jewelry. Don't just trust anyone with your valuables. Come see the staff at Cano's at 1016 West Beauregard in San Angelo.
Thanks for watching the Live Daily News Show, the only locally owned news show in the Concho Valley. Go like us on Facebook, X, and other social media platforms, and download the San Angelo Live mobile app today to stay up to date with news from in and around the Concho Valley. Thanks again, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.